Those of you guys who weren't here last week, I said two things that I wanted to sort of correct. I was giving an illustration about the Ten Commandments, and I was talking to a guy who I was at a Bible study with, and the guy was like, this was not at the Bible study, this was after the Bible study. I offered this guy some cookies, like we were at Starbucks, and we have some people bring cookies just like tonight, and we had some left over, and there was a table full of guys who were always there. They're from Italy, and they're talking Italian and drinking espressos, and so I walk up and I offer some cookies, and they go, oh, thanks, what are you guys studying? Okay, boom, that's your in. Whenever someone says that, like, what are you studying or what are you reading, that's your in. So I said, oh, we're doing the Bible study, and the questions just started. And the one guy, he says, I love the Ten Commandments. Okay, you guys remember the illustration from last week? Okay. I love the Ten Commandments. And I said, but you don't keep them. Okay, and I wasn't being mean to the guy. I was just trying to get him to see that, like, okay, your defense in I love the Ten Commandments, you don't actually keep the Ten Commandments that you claim to love. And then I think it was Mike who said, what did he say after that? And I said something like, Luther started his own religion. And I thought that's what he said. That was later in the conversation. Here's what they actually said. The guy actually said, no, I do keep the Ten Commandments. And I said, okay, one of them is, don't bear false testimony, which in our language means what? Don't lie. Don't lie. And I said, dude, one of them is don't lie. I said, have you ever gone to work late and even 10 minutes and your boss was like, were you on time? And you said yes. Or, you took something that wasn't yours, but it was little and it didn't really matter and it wouldn't hurt anyone if you took it. And then you said, no, I didn't take it. And he's like, well, those aren't lies. Right? What are they then? But that's how you can keep the Ten Commandments, when you make the things you do not those sins. So if one of them is, thou shalt have no other gods before me, right? And you say, I've never broken that. Well, then you really have to discredit all your idolatry and loving everything God has made way more than him. You have to pretend you don't do that stuff. Okay, and then if I could just go down through the 10 and show how we've broken all of them, right? Don't lie. Who of us can say, never lied, right? And so if you say you love the Ten Commandments, you're really deceived, okay? Not that you can't love the Ten Commandments, because they are good. I mean, one of Romans, I think it's 7, Paul says, what shall we say about the law? Is the law sin? God forbid. And then he goes on to argue that we're the problem. Okay? The Ten Commandments reflect God's perfection. We're the ones who can't keep it. So what's the problem, the law or us? We're the problem. Okay, but for people who claim they can keep the commandments and they love the Ten Commandments because it makes them righteous and acceptable by God, they're either very self-deceived, which a lot of people are, or they sort of make their sins not sins. You know what I mean? So anyway, I wanted to correct that from last week because I was thinking about it after the study, and I was like, I told that story incorrectly. And then the other one, I can't remember if it comes to me. There was another something that I said that was wrong, but I can't remember. So if it comes back to me, we'll do that. All right, Romans 12:1. Therefore, okay, the therefore points back in the way I've studied it to Romans 1 through 11. So up to this point, he's making a conclusion statement of all that he has just said in Romans 1 through 11. Therefore, I urge you, brothers, okay, talking to Christians, in view of God's mercy, offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Okay, quick review from last week. Here's what he says that is the key to Romans 12:1. Okay, it is this: in view of God's mercy, do this. Okay, now remember what mercy is. Mercy is not getting what you deserve. Okay, you deserve a sentence, you deserve a penalty, you deserve, in biblical context, God's anger, wrath, and punishment. But you get mercy if you're a Christian. You don't get those things. Okay? Instead, you get grace, which is the opposite, getting what you don't deserve, right? Which is God's favor, Jesus' righteousness, eternal pleasure, the inheritance of all things with the Son. I mean, we get a lot that we don't deserve, which is grace. And what's interesting is we can do nothing to earn that favor. That's a beautiful truth. That is the good news of the gospel, is that, look, you're a foul person, I'm a foul person, and God loved you so much that in your foulness, he paid the ultimate price. He died for you. And then later, Jesus said this, greater love has sort of no display other than this. Anyone know it? That he laid down his life for his friend. Okay? The ultimate act of love that we can show someone is to lay down your life for someone else. You give up everything for them. And that's what Jesus did for you. He laid down everything for us. His life, his existence. And not only that, but we have no clue what it's like to be under the wrath of God and to be God and experience that. Right? Where God turns his back for 3 hours and Jesus says, my God, why have you forsaken me? We're never going to experience that if you're a Christian. Okay, even unbelievers at this point, what's so interesting is this. Unbelievers who you meet every day, whether it's your atheistic professor in college or if it's your mom, or dad, God forbid, who is unbiblical and doesn't believe, they are experiencing God's grace right now. Did you know that? It's called common grace. And so every atheist who uses the intellect, that's grace, that God gave him, the ability to process logic and reason, and then they use that common grace, which is common meaning it goes to everybody, they use it to disprove his existence. Okay, when you see baseball players and hockey players and football players and actors and musicians and artists who are just phenomenal that you couldn't imagine standing next to and doing what they do, that's called common grace. Okay, Satan doesn't give those gifts. Right? So AC/DC, right? Highway to Hell, what's the devil one? Hell's Bells, what's the other one? Shout at the Devil, that's not them, is it, huh? Okay. Okay. Anyway, these are the classic rock guys here. And we have DVE on, so I know about it as well. So here's the deal, though. God's common grace to these guys, giving them phenomenal abilities to play instruments, to sing, and to attract huge stadiums full of people. And what do they do with it? Not do it for God, but instead glorify Satan and hell, and it's really interesting. Okay, it's sad, but that's the deal. And so you see sports guys who are just phenomenal, and they make touchdowns, and they flaunt their stuff, and they do interviews and praise themselves. God gave them the grace to do that, and yet they take all the glory. Okay, that's called common grace, and we all get common grace, all of us, Christians and non. That's what James means when he says God causes the rain to fall on the just and the unjust. Okay, non-Christians enjoy the same sunshine, the same scenery, the same music, the same foods, the same family relationships, the same laughter, the same enjoyment as non-Christians. And then in the same way, we as Christians experience the same pain, the same sufferings, the same struggles as non-Christians. Why? Anyone know? Okay, that's a good answer. We live in a sinful world, and so we're subject to all those things, and we ourselves are sinful, right? Not just that we're like good people in a sinful world. We're evil ourselves in an evil world, but it's so that non-Christians can look at us when we go through the same junk they do, and they can look at us and say, wait a minute. Either you're not complaining, or you're not cursing God, or you're actually happy. How is this possible? And then we get to explain. Okay, I'm a Christian. There's more to this life. Okay, the Bible says that I'm perfected in my trials and that God is doing something with this, and this isn't meaningless. And so God allows us to go through the same junk they do, experience the same pains and struggles and temptations, so that when we do, we can be a witness to the outside world looking in on us. Right? Okay, that was all common grace. And if you guys have questions about that, I'd love to go further, but that's not what we're doing tonight. So he says, in view of God's mercy, not getting what you deserve, okay, you have God's favor, which is grace. You're not earning anything. You didn't do anything to get it. You have been given it freely as a gift. Because of that, he says, offer your bodies as living sacrifices. Okay, mercy and grace first, then action. Okay, this is so key, because if you grew up in a bad church or you read some bad books, you might get the impression that you have to be good first, you have to do the right thing, you have to clean up, and then you get God's mercy, then you get God's grace. No. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. God comes and grabs us out of the darkness while we're in it, while we're loving it and enjoying it, not the other way around. He doesn't say, come on out of the darkness. Come on out. Stop all of your sinning. Stop all of your junk. I have little ears here, okay? Stop all of your junk, and then I'll give you grace. Then I'll give you mercy. No, he gives it us right while we're in the junk, swimming in it, and loving it, treasuring it. It's amazing, really. That's why it's called Amazing Grace. That's why